Since the pre-Revolutionary War, up until the mid-20th century, the Longfellow house was occupied by three men, Vassall, Craigie, and Longfellow. Of the three, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow played the most significant role in adding to the importance of the house. First, Vassall, a loyalist, built the home in 1759 on what is now 105 Brattle Street in Cambridge, Massachusetts. When the Revolutionary War started to affect him, he fled and went to England. Then, Andrew Craigie and his wife owned the home. Craigie was a member of the Continental Army, and when he died, his wife could not keep up with the finances of the house. Therefore, Nathan Appleton purchased the house for his daughter, Fanny Appleton, and his son-in-law, Longfellow. Longfellow was the country's first professional poet. He spent ample time in the study of the house, where he wrote many famous pieces of poetry. This poetry captured the feelings, expectations, and experiences of Americans before and after the Revolutionary War. The house was very important to Longfellow, and it impacted his poetry because he was intrigued by the dense history of the home. He studied its previous owners and also studied the time when it was George Washington's headquarters during the siege of Boston from July 1775 to April 1776. George Washington established the Continental Army here to lead to independence for America. The history of the house was where Longfellow found his inspiration. Longfellow helped to document the early American culture, which carved out the backbone of modern American culture separate from its European roots.
I find it particularly intriguing about this site that is not just because of those two men that we remember it, but because it's tied to 250 odd years of American history, from the colonial period through even the 1950s, with the family still involved here and still living here.
Longfellow's poetry is known for its immense popularity. His words affected fellow American citizens and had an impact on the future of America. At the start of his career, he would only write for pleasure while still maintaining his position as professor at Harvard University. He studied many other poets as well, including Hawthorne and Dickens. Later on, he pursued his career in poetry more seriously. He became known as the people's poet. He published many popular works. One example is called The Slave in the Dismal Swamp. This piece of work is one of many that show how Longfellow affected American citizens, particularly the middle class. They were moved especially by his writings because he wrote about the current situations of the time and was honest with the daily struggles of the majority. In this particular poem, he describes a poor slave, infirm and lame. Great scars deforms the face. This shows his position against slavery, which many Northerners agreed with. Many of the middle-class citizens in New England felt that slavery had to be abolished, and Longfellow wrote about ideas that agreed with and spread that message. This led many people to favor Longfellow over other poets who believed in more traditional views. Also, in The Builders, Longfellow says, "For the structure that we raise, time is with materials filled, our todays and yesterdays are the blocks with which we build." This indicates his beliefs on building up America as an independent nation. He indicates that he believes America can use their past and their previous obstacles to build America into a great nation. Also, The Village Blacksmith is another one of Longfellow's works. It describes a daily blacksmith shop in the 1800s. In part of the poem, Longfellow says, "And the muscles of his brawny arms are strong as iron bands." Not only does this show that Longfellow respected blacksmiths, but it also shows, and more importantly, it shows respect for early America. He believed it to have achieved greatness, even though all odds were against it. The line shows his great appreciation in the history of America. One of Longfellow's most famous poems is called Paul Revere's Ride. Here is an excerpt from this poem. Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere. On the 18th of April, in 75, hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day and year. He said to his friend, if the British march by land or sea from the town tonight, hang a lantern aloft in the belfry arch of the North Church Tower as a signal light. One if by land, and two if by sea, and I on the opposite shore will be, ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm, for the county folk to be up and to arm. The Longfellow House is the birthplace to 19th century literature. Henry Longfellow lived in this historically rich home and therefore was surrounded by much inspiration. Living in a time of war and Reconstruction, Longfellow found his niche in society by dedicating his time towards writing poetry to express his thoughts of what America should become. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow used his power of words to convince, if not inspire, many Americans to branch off from the old European ways and to become their own country with their own opinions, beliefs, traditions, and rules. Longfellow became an important symbol for his fellow Americans through his poetry. His poetic achievements and the historical significance enhancing his poetry made Longfellow an immensely popular, influential, and well-known poet who will be cherished for years to come. Longfellow will be forever known as having an important role in creating the national identity.